Hi everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current wild climate of 2020, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. On this episode of Tent Talk, we're chatting with Chris Quinlan from MarketWorks and talking about how intense the Farmers Market Conference might look next year. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros and host of the Farmers Market Pros community, and an active speaker and consultant for farmers market managers.
And I'm co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, former vendor. I'm just trying to think of all the things that I do.
Mask maker.
There's so many things you do. Web designer now.
Jack of all trades.
Answerer of urgent texts from Kat and I in the middle of the night about tech-related things.
That's right. All those things.
So many things. Welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. While we were talking about our favorite episodes on last week's 100th episode, we remembered how much fun we had with Chris Quinlan way back in our early months of Tent Talk and how he taught us how to say produce. And perhaps we giggled too much on that episode, but sorry.
I think Justine told us we got a complaint from a listener about
yeah, we did.
Settle down, quit laughing, and let the man talk.
Having too much fun listening to Chris speaking
we lost a listener, but
in his Canadian accent. Well, too bad, because we love it.
We love it.
And we're so happy to have him back.
Yeah, so Chris managed the Whistler Farmers Market in British Columbia for 8 years, and he also created MarketWorks, which is a subscription-based market management tool to allow himself the time and organizational structure to building that market into one of the most successful in British Columbia. And we got to hear all about that on episode 4. So if you want to hear more about that, you can dive back into one of those past episodes. But now Chris devotes full time to managing MarketWorks and consulting with farmers market managers to make their operations more efficient.
And of course, attending multiple farmers market conferences where Chris and I run into each other with some regularity.
Thanks so much.
Welcome, Chris.
It's great to be back with you folks. And I'm not too sure about my Canadian accent. I spent so much time down there last fall. I may have a bit of a twang still going on.
That's right.
Are you saying produce now?
Really? Have we converted you? That's still produce.
Still
okay,
produce.
good. He's still got it. He's still got the
It's
Canadian. So, Chris, what have you been up to? You're not managing a market anymore. What are you spending your time on? I think you said something last time we talked about coding.
Yeah, so we've sort of taken MarketWorks to the next level. We had our base of coding engineers working out of my business partner's coding company in Indonesia, but we are actually setting up an operation here in Canada, in Whistler. So we're going to have our coders closer at hand, allow us to develop a lot more features that we've been hearing that managers want to have in a more timely fashion, and they'll be with us as opposed to just when we can get them. So it's been exciting, that part of it, but also doing a lot more one-on-ones with market managers, just helping them get through this thing that we're doing,
right.
Sharing the stories that you and I get to talk about once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you helping them react to the COVID-19 protocols? Are you analyzing their market operations in general and supplying suggestions? Or what kind of focus does your consulting side have?
Basically, it's like, how can you help me in any way? It's the first call I had was from a manager in the interior of British Columbia, and they were in a panic because the board is a volunteer board and they don't know what's going on, and they're terrified that they're not going to have any money and they want to shut everything down. And so I'm like, well, no, actually there's programs where you can go and you can get your salaries paid for your managers, because it's what we do up here in Canada. We're just supporting folks. And
I'm jealous.
Like in comparison to here, is that what you're saying? We actually do have some support things going on. I know that a lot of managers and organizations have used PPP and those kind of things to keep their staff covered. So, but you do need to know where to look.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. And, we had programs that cover everything from, just the funding of the organization, which is the biggest most terrifying piece. And then the associations that I've been working with have been providing so much in resources for their markets. It's just unbelievable. I mean, we all deal with the same ones, from Washington out to Nova Scotia, BC, super proactive. So we're always getting all these newsletters, and I'm being able to share these stories with other markets that wouldn't necessarily get that information. So everything from finances to, hey, we had a guy who built that caution tape. Instead of saying caution, dead body here, it says farmer's market.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's not a crime scene
No.
at your market.
I know, because that feels so weird. But yeah, that was a big improvement, that tape.
Yeah.
We like that. Yeah, so it's all those little resources that are so much easier to come up with working as a group, of course. And you partner with Farm to Fax as well, right?
Yes. We've been working with Alfonso. And so our API with them is online, and they're going to roll it out in the fall with their new stuff that they're going to be doing. Basically, it just allows vendor or markets that are participating in the Farm to Fax program, if they're using them to do their socioeconomic metrics, then they can collect that information at one of 2 points within MarketWorks, either at the point of application, so the standard question that applies to every applicant. And then there's also the ability for managers to be able to go in on a weekly or market by market basis, if it's if there's 2 or 3 a week, and be able to answer specific time related questions like how was the weather, or how many dogs came in, or what kind of where did you spend your money outside of the market. All of those things that influence the socioeconomic impact of a farmer's market. Once they are input into MarketWorks, it's just that one direct place they have to do it. They can just push it through the API. It goes direct to their Farm to Fax account. And then they can pump out the report from there. So they don't have to go in and enter it twice.
Well, I think that's going to be even more important than it used to be. Not that data was ever unimportant. And of course, it's the most fascinating and fun part of farmers markets, entering data, right? We all agree on that. But where, so people either love it or they're just really reluctant. They just don't want to deal with it. But I think this year especially, people are finding it more important. We're getting a lot of questions in our Farmers Market Pros community about what platforms people use for collecting data, because I think a lot of us are going to need help. So we're going to need to get grants or subsidies or apply to those stimulus programs. And a lot of times what will make the sale for you in terms of getting a grant or getting some help from a sponsor even is, do you have data that shows that what you're doing affects the local economy? How does it affect neighboring businesses? How does it affect the food system? So collecting all that data is way... It was always a good idea, but I don't think we knew quite how important it was until now, when operations are so difficult to cover from space rent.
Yeah. It's interesting. When I started this business, it was, as you mentioned in your introduction, to help me give me the ability just to do the operational side of the market itself with a lot more ease. So, save me time there. But then I realized a couple years into the program that we're not, a market management software as much as we are a data management software, right? And that's, so when you talk about, data and the importance of it, adding features that allow people to track different types of media for their sales, whether it's Wix or whatever, any of those things that are going on, that's what it's all come down to. And every conference that we've attended, the big thing has been, we need some place to put this data so we can do it. So absolutely, when you can go to a funding partner or an organization that's going to be able to help you out, if you can say, this is the good we do, this is the impact we have, then data is going to be that selling point for you. And if you're laid out professionally, then that just makes it that much easier for them to say, yeah, this makes sense, because then they just copy it and paste it and put it in their promotions. Look at who we helped.
Yeah. Exactly. And for marketing purposes too, having all that data to share with your customers and your neighborhood. You can just use it for so many different things.
Yeah, especially right now where a lot of farmers market managers and vendors are having to justify that farmers markets are essential. Having that data that they can kind of say like, here, look, we serve these many people. We serve, we have these many people that are coming and using their EBT SNAP benefits at our markets, or, these are our farmer sales, and that's money that's going directly to help small farmers. So especially during this time,
And really important.
In the markets in COVIDian times now.
I like that term.
That's good.
Market,
we're using that from now on.
Covidian. We're like, it's a verb now.
It's our Jurassic Covidian era. No,
This is going to be another giggly episode. I can see. I hope that woman's not listening.
stop having fun.
She'll
That's
like
right.
it. She'll like it.
Oh, isn't that what we've been told, all of us this year? Stop
Yeah.
having fun.
Yes.
Eliminate the fun at markets. That's
Farmers
pretty
markets
much
are
been
not
the
fun.
order from
Yeah.
the city.
So
So in these COVIDian times, Chris,
Covidian times, I mean, that we're seeing increases in farm sales, and it's becoming so apparent across every market that I dealt with, and I'm sure that you deal with as well, the value of farmers markets in the food security game. I mean, their sales going from double to triple for farms. One farm in Nova Scotia, one market actually had to add another day of pickups so that they could handle the volume that they were getting. So it's been an incredible surge in realizing the value of markets, but by having that marked down, like if you had the sales from last year and then you can show them this year and you can show that thing, then that speaks volumes to everybody. And then that's when somebody comes to you and says, no, we don't think you should be here. We really need to have a parking stall. You go, no, look what we do.
right, exactly. Yes, so
Exactly.
important. And yeah, it has been an interesting thing. It's tough on market managers and operations right now because the staffing requirements are so much higher, and the equipment, and being able to lock down the perimeter and buy all that cute tape that says farmers markets and not danger. All those things add up. But for farmers, we're finding that their sales are as good or better. Now, the trade-off for that, of course, is that a lot of our farmers have lost all their restaurant business, or the majority of their restaurant business. So they're still, we don't want to say that farmers aren't struggling in this as well, but I think farmers markets have been their saving grace as they've been able to reopen and modify so that we can get the customers directly in touch with the farmers. And also the supply chain breakdowns for other places that you buy groceries. There's all those empty shelves. And it's not just toilet paper. There's other food missing. And it's important to remember that with borders closing and supply chains having challenges, that local food is where it's at. We need to keep eating.
Yeah, it's critical. And an interesting anecdote on the way that it's impacted restaurants. A couple of my friends running restaurants in Whistler are actually, they pared down their offerings, went a lot more local with the product that they could get, and the produce, so that they could be more efficient. And they're actually running at 50% capacity. They're actually meeting and exceeding some of their numbers over last year,
good.
which is kind of crazy. They're like going, okay, we have a smaller menu, it's more local, and so they'll be able to support as much, a few more of the farms that way as well, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny. We're finding all kinds of strange income projections and things, doing things differently. And one of the places that we're looking at how that's going to play out is with conferences coming up. So Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, and also all the state association conferences. And it's one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you again is because you and I tend to cross paths at a lot of conferences. When I talk to state association directors and things, they say, "Have you seen Chris Quinlan? Because you're the one who's at every conference.
So
you're
where's
the one
Waldo?
person we have." Where's Waldo? Where's Chris this week? Where's Chris? How many conferences did you go to last year?
I think it was 6 or 7. Yeah, for the season, I think 7. Yeah, I think that's what it was. So, but that virtual one with Alaska was a hoot.
Yeah, they pivoted really quickly. That was my next one up. My bag was still packed for Alaska when things just really started to crash and fold in on themselves. And we were wondering what would happen, and a number of the conferences I was booked for just after that canceled. But Alaska, actually, with only a couple of weeks to pivot, managed to create a really strong online conference. And now there's just a lot of conversation about this winter and next spring's conferences and how those are going to look. And we're all pretty sure those are going to have to be virtual as well. So what do you think it's going to look like next year for conferences?
Yeah, we had this meeting 2 weeks ago, Simon and I, about what it's going to look like going into 21, and it's definitely, we're banking on it being virtual, understanding that we may have to invest a little bit more in some different technologies that are out there to allow different presences. So not just being there in a one-on-one like we're doing right now on a Zoom video call, but there's also holographic things that you can do where you can have a speaker actually sitting in there. So we got to go what out there, right? It's like
fancy.
How very Star Wars of you.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, but it's like, okay, how do we make this better? And again,
Chrissy Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope.
From the planet Covidian.
That's right.
I'm sorry, but I got to digress for 1 second. That whole Star Wars thing. We did a farmers market radio ad one time when I was on radio still, and we finished it off. It was the Star Wars theme, and we finished it off with "Luke, I am your farmer."
I like it.
I think we have our theme for the next conference.
That's right.
Star
Luke,
Wars.
I am your farmer.
Luke, I am your farmer.
Oh,
That's so funny.
Costumes that make it
hilarious.
so much more fun. I mean,
That's right.
getting up at 7 a.m. for yoga, but let's.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be digital. I think we're going to want to find ways to enhance the participation of the people that are there. Like, not just have it, they're sitting in a room. It was great having breakout rooms so you can do all those things, but what are the other ways that we can engage participants that we can't do, that we would normally do one-on-one? How do we meet that challenge in a digital conference?
Well, how important is the whole conference scene to you as a market support service provider? What percentage do you think of your business comes from meeting people at conferences versus them just finding you online, Googling market management and finding you online, versus, reaching out and getting to know people at conferences?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that every bit of business I ever got was from the podcast we did.
Well, of course, there's that.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's your value right there.
Episode 4.
Right.
It's critical. I mean, in the development of any business, there's going to be, people want to know if you're going to be around. So an example that we had, when I was in San Diego, and then also when I was in Michigan or other conferences, it's just like, you're there the first year. Yeah, we like that. And first year in Washington was like, boom, I was signing them up while I was driving home. It was great. But then the people that are a little bit bigger, they want to make sure you're going to be around, right? Because they're going to start making that investment. So it becomes really, really important to be at those conferences to show you're there and that you're still alive, and that also to be able to listen. And when you can show that the features that you're developing are falling in line with the discussions that you've had with them or they've had with each other at other conferences, then that gives them a lot more confidence in the product. So, a percentage-wise, I think it started out, it was probably about 70% was coming from conferences. But I've had people, phone me up. Yeah, I saw you 3 years ago. I can finally, we can finally do this thing, right? And then they heard me on a podcast, which it's pretty funny because when you talked about that, I got 2 people yesterday I had to talk to.
How funny.
That is funny.
Awesome.
People take
That's
back
the
in our
heavy rotation.
archives.
Right? Heavy rotation. Maybe it's because the 100th episode we were talking about old episodes, and we did
Yeah.
mention you and you
Yeah.
teaching us how to say produce.
People looked it up.
They must have gone back and taken a look.
Yeah,
It's
so
been good.
It's huge. It's huge. And biggest challenge for us is going to be, how do we get one-on-one with people? How do we sit down and demonstrate things for people? If they're not in a session and they want to come and talk to you about their individual thing, how are we going to demonstrate that? So as a vendor,
Yeah.
that's going to be a challenge, but we'll meet it.
Well, you're clever coders and online kind of people, so I'm sure you'll figure out ways to have that connection via the interwebs. You'll find a way.
What is
Yeah, you're a little ahead because you're already kind of a techie company anyways. So it's kind of beating out some of our other people that we're dealing with who have to fax us things. So it's a learning curve, I think.
Oh no, down.
No. We're not the hologram stage yet.
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to that's coming up? Do you have anything already scheduled? Are you on the docket at any conferences that are coming up? Or are you just looking forward to those conferences that you know are coming and you're going to be participating in?
I mean, definitely the ones that I know are coming. We've talked with, I talked with Colleen, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? It's like, well, hey, let's do it. And then Colleen talks to you, and now we're talking, and this is, so I think that all the associations are just trying to figure this out themselves. But just like market managers, associations have just had their entire workload shift to being full support for helping folks out, to get through the challenges of COVID. And that's really the thing now is they're going to be going, okay, how are we going to do this? They're going to need that help. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to provide a platform or a template for this through some of the research that we're doing. And if we can help out that way, we'll do that. I'm really looking forward to all the conferences that I went to last year, to being able to do those again virtually, but also maybe able to hit a couple others that I couldn't because of conflicting times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, in some way, we're always looking for silver linings. I think in some ways it's going to make conferences more accessible to people.
Yeah. Because there are so many people that would have loved to come to Intense last year, but they're like, well, I manage a market, and it's just hard to physically come all the way to San Diego and then get back and do that, or it was in the middle of, another conference, but now a lot of people can kind of double dip because time allows.
Yeah. So more opportunity for that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be tough to go for a paddleboard in February.
Well, there's that. I wonder if we'll get it remains to be seen if Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, will have the big Canadian turnout this year that we've had in the past. All the previous years, we've had so many Canadians, and I'm sure that it's entirely because of our amazing content, and not just that in February, San Diego is a nice place for Canadians to be.
What are you talking about, eh?
They'll still come.
We'll do some live video from
the
the
beach.
marina. And, so they'll have to
Make you
tune
feel
in to
warm.
see that. Yeah, we'll
Make you
wear
feel
our
warm.
shorts. I'll still be in a jacket, even though Chris would wear his shorts in the same weather.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being with us. We are going to wrap up this part of the conversation, and then you're going to stay on with us so we can go a little bit deeper about conferences and some more details about those things for our Farmers Market Pros members. So don't go away, and and we'll explain how you guys can get a hold of that content as well.
I'm excited.
Hey, Chris, it's always good having you.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll be talking more offline, too, about conference planning and things. But thank you for sharing this with our members and our listeners. And we'll be talking to you again soon.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. It's always great, because you're so damn much fun. I'm sorry, if you're supposed to take the fun out of what you're doing, you're losing badly.
We don't know how to do that. We're very bad at that.
That's right.
So, that's good. But, I got to be honest, Intense and that conference has been one of the biggest single drivers for our business.
Oh, good.
Great exposure. So we're always going to be there to support it as much as we can. And thanks for doing what you do and keeping people informed.
Yeah,
All right.
You're a big part of it and a really great fun part of the conference every year. And we're going to miss your Bermuda shorts and your
Hawaiian shirt.
your Hawaiian shirts and your fun times at the after parties.
We're definitely going to need a little hologram of Chris to hang out on our desk and dance in his Hawaiian shirt
Yes.
and, be the life of the party.
Well, I'm shivering in my jacket.
That's right.
in our 70-degree weather.
Hot.
Well, Chris, we'll definitely let's just declare we will all see each other in 2022, right? Because we're going to be able to come back together.
Yeah.
Let's just
Live and in person.
Yes,
Yeah.
live and in person.
But we'll see you somewhere in 2021 as well.
Yeah.
We're going to figure this out.
Figure it out.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris. Safe
All right.
travels to you on your next adventure.
Thank you so much. Paddleboard's on the roof, and I'll go find some water.
All right.
You do it. Have fun.
Alrighty.
Bye, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Farmers markets are all about community, not just for the shoppers, but for the operators, farmers, and vendors. To hear what's happening from people just like you in the farmers market industry in various parts of the country, or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, or send us an email at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. To dig a little deeper and support new episodes and new content, join our new membership program by going to farmersmarketpros.com and click the support button in the top right corner, then click Become a Member. Thank you so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. If you are listening on YouTube, give us that thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead.